heard, but I think next time we'll start with the living symbol, which is by Gerhard Adler, which is a real analysis of a woman over 2 years with every single dream in the analysis, and so you can see the development of the dreams as it goes through. It's just it's very instructive on how you deal, how you go from an ego that's in a malaise to healing and curing through dreams and the psyche and through interpreting your dreams. Well, anyway, I just thought I'd start out with this little part from Hillman here about that we're going to keep going with revisioning psychology, but it's just such a rich and dense book that I thought we'd just do it in selections from that are really good, rather than just going through it, because it's I tell you, Gary, I'd read it 5 times and I'd still find something new each time I read it, But anyway, this is a very interesting little passage here, and then I'm going to bring in a dream from Way of the Dream that I think. Hi, Charles. Didn't see you come in. I did, but I didn't say hi. But anyway, this is about where Hillman says that unless our soul has been abducted by death, and he uses the image of Persephone's being kidnapped by Hades, that we never fathom the reality that we are not real, that we are a metaphor, that the only irreducible reality within us are the images of the soul. Now, I think the dream that Marie-Louise von Franz will help. Just a second, I got another one here. Okay, well, this is just a little bit of Hillman and his beautiful writing. He says each of us enacts Persephone in soul, a maiden in a field of narcissi or poppies, lulled drowsy with innocence and pretty comforts, until we are dragged off and pulled down by Hades, or by abducted by death, really. Our intact natural consciousness is violated and open to the perspective of death. Once this has happened, through a suicidal despair, through a sudden fall from a smooth rising career, through an invisible depression in whose grip we struggle vainly, then Persephone reigns in the soul, and we see life through her darker eye. So, in other words, this is for instance, I was just trying to get an example. If you knew that without having any health problems, but that you were going to die in a week, would you look at things any differently than you are now? This is the idea of going from the personalistic realm to the psychological realm. And when Jung says psychological realm, he means something different than anybody else does. He means the realm of the psyche. This is the realm of images. This is this inhuman realm of the unconscious that creates our dreams and sends them to us. So, and then you realize that this is the reality, not my ego out there, but this reality in here is essentially at the end the reality. We might think it's not, but anyway, he says that only then, it seems, are we able to discriminate psyche from ego, and experiencing in the belly of our intimate being that the psyche has connections far removed from human concerns, then we see human concerns differently. We see them psychologically, not through the realm of the ordinary reality. I mean, that's what the shamans call the extraordinary reality or something. It's a reality that has a different point of view and a different task, and yet it's see we that's the main theme of living out your rhizome. In other words, you're born with this rhizome, which is the psyche. You really are a root. You are the an awareness that's living on top of a root that's buried deep in the earth, and yet you think that you are the principal character in this drama, but it's not you. It's this root that's buried deep in the earth that needs to emerge, and yet this root is very unusual. That the only way that it's going to emerge one of two ways. One way is that you are never aware of it, and it emerges without you knowing what's happening, and that way is often not turns out not to be good. But if you can become aware of its emerging, then you become its servant and not its victim. So it's this aspect of and until and it's just a wonderful image that until you have encountered until your soul is abducted by Hades, till your soul is taken down in the underworld, until your awareness is taken down in the underworld, you're never going to be able to deal with this. And the fact that your ego awareness, and this is what Hillman said in the personification, that we are the personification of the soul. I mean, we are the soul's image. We're her personification, not the other way around. In other words, we are the personification of the soul, and we're her dream. In other words, and yet we don't know that we're her dream. Now, this is it often comes out in I think three things. One is in the Gospel of Thomas, where they said, "When will the kingdom come? Kingdom of the Father come?" And it won't come by expectation. Men won't say, see here, see there. The kingdom is spread upon the earth right now, but no one sees it. In other words, that what no one sees is the realm of psyche. And why does no one see it? Well, no one sees it because it's it is the ego is in charge. The conscious attitude is in charge. And I find this, when I was doing analysis with Jungian analysts, they often would, like, I thought the usual mix was to spend 30 minutes talking about the conscious attitude, what disasters happened this week, and then 30 minutes of doing dream work, but that's dream work is hard, but talking about the conscious attitude, and I'd find that you'd spend 60 minutes talking about the conscious attitude. Well, that's is not someone who's going to die in a week, or someone whose soul's been abducted by Hades, who now has a different perspective or a different departure point too. It's a different way of departing. Well, anyway, I thought we'd look at this dream of that. This is from Way of the Dream, and it's I think it sort of illustrated the point of of this little thing. Hi, Tim. We're just talking about being abducted by death, you know, that until you're
My favorite topic.
Yes, until you're abducted by death, you're never going to, until the soul is abducted by death, it's not going to realize that the ego is that we are not real, that we are a metaphor, you know. Anyway, that's the image. But here's the dream from Marie-Louise von Franz, which I think startled me. I don't know if it'll startle you, but so here's the dream. This just described as a male dreamer. There was a rehearsal of a play in church, and two actresses were nailing the Christ figure to the cross. The cross was laying flat on the transept of the church. Transept, churches are often in a shape of a cross, and they're called a transept. And I could hear the sound of nailing, which was terrifying. Yet somehow they were only tying the person onto the cross, not nailing. When that was finished, they raised it up in the church, and the figure on that cross was very high. It was extremely dangerous for that person. Let me just get Rena here. Okay. Then the scene changed. Hi, Rena. I'm just getting started here. Anyway, there are two actresses nailing the Christ figure to the cross. The cross was laying flat, and I could hear the sound of nailing, which was terrifying. Yet somehow they were only tying the person on that cross, not nailing. And when they finished, they raised it up in the church, and the figure on the cross was very high. It was extremely dangerous for that person. Then the scene changed from the rehearsal to the actual performance. The actress who will play the Christ, the actor who will play the Christ, comes in, solemnly processing down the aisle. But to my amazement, it's a woman. And not only that, but it's my wife. And although not my actual wife in reality. So it's his dream wife. He's probably not married to this woman in real life. She's dressed in a simple gray cloak, held at the neck with the brooch, and she's heavily pregnant. The whole crucifixion scene is repeated as in the rehearsal, and she's raised up high. It's very moving and absolutely magnificent. Then the scene changes again. It's after the play, and we're walking home. I look at my wife, who's walking on my left side. She has fair, short cropped hair and a slim, boyish figure, despite the pregnancy. She reminded me, I thought afterwards, of the actress Jean Seberg in the film Joan of Arc. I'm filled with pride and love for her, but none of this I say to her. I keep it all to myself. And then the dream ends. And, so this is his inner wife. It's actually his soul is enacting the being suspended at the opposites, at the intersection of opposites, which is, called the crucifixion. This is Jean Seberg here in Joan of Arc with her short cropped hair. But anyway, so that's the dream. I mean, just to go over it again, that there is they're going to reenact a crucifixion in a church. When it's actually enacted, it's going to be a mystery play. When it's actually enacted, it's not a Christ figure that's going to be put up on the cross. It's his inner wife. It's his soul that's going to be crucified. And not only is it his soul, but it's his pregnant soul. It's his soul which is expecting, heavily pregnant, So this is what von Franz said about it. Well, first of all, what does anybody have any comments about that dream? Or I mean, what do you think? Now you find out that the Christ figure in the dream is going to be a not a abstract spiritual being. It's going to be your soul, your anima, your inner, your inner partner. And your inner partner is expecting a child. And yet she's going to experience this, being abducted by Hades, essentially, when she's put up on the cross. She's going to be suspended. The image too of the crucifixion. The image of the crucifixion is, if you look at it, what it really means is there's the intersection of a quaternity. Okay, there's a vertical axis and there's a horizontal axis. Yes.
I've always been fascinated with the image of the Christa, female Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done a lot of images of that. And it seems to me that one reason I find it so powerful is this is what our culture is about. Mm-hmm. It's taking all of the feminine elements and doing a crucifixion of those things, just like the Romans did, taking this really disruptive element that is powerful and uncontrollable, and nailing it to the cross so that it gets out of our way. And it seems to me that that's kind of patriarchy at work.
Yeah, it's interesting. Von Franz has an amazing statement in an earlier section about the need for balance between the masculine and the feminine, in sociologically. Okay, and she says one thing about the United States, that it tends to be. It tends to be overly masculine, and she says that usually the symbol for the feminine in such a society is kind of a mother complex, really, and she says it's usually represented by a devouring mother who's basically a fat woman. He says, and she says even the symbol of the country is a fat woman, and she says, well, at least she's carrying a light, which makes it a little better. But what she said about the Miles, I was just going to finish what I was, that she said that she had not really known of any sociological matriarchal places except for one in South America, where it was ruled by a matriarchal system. And she said that the women there tended to become, the men just became ciphers in that world. And she said it was a perfectly nice world and everybody was living very nicely. And there was lots of sex and everything was going fine. But she said it lacked the spirit side, So she's saying that this realm lacked spirit, and that the women tended to become a little bit overweight, and they were just
exactly what Von Franz said about those about that society. She said,
yes,
in fat whores.
Yes, yeah, that's what he said, that they were. But anyway, the idea is that there needs to be a balance between the earth and the spirit. That's the idea, and that also speaks to our own psyches too. Miles, what did you have to say?
Well, I'm remembering our Mr. Purrington Lewis. He said, in many analyses or scholarly works on the Bible, that the Holy Spirit is androgynous. And as I said in the past, that I was surprised to hear that in some of the ancient scriptures, scrolls, the Holy Spirit is referred to with the feminine pronoun. But indeed, if the Holy Spirit can be androgynous, then, you know, for a man who wants to feels drawn to a feminine soul, that's the Holy Spirit's an anima, and for the female who's drawn to a male soul or an animus, and I think you've said that are the men the vertical and the women the horizontal, and it's almost like, okay, the target is to get these things, you know, right there centered in sort of some harmony. Any thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, that brings up the androgyne and what the that the self is not really the organizing center of the psyche is not really have a gender. You know, one thing I forget who it was said about the Holy Spirit, that it represents the inferior function, and when we're conscious of it, it tends to be male, and when we're unconscious of it, it tends to be female. You know, because the anima represents the unconscious. So if we're unconscious of the spirit, it tends to be female, and if we're overly logos, too much logos, it becomes male. But anyway, the idea there and is see the Christa, which Tim was bringing up, the fact that this Christ is a woman, and not only a woman, it's a pregnant woman, and she's going to be the image of what happens is you've got the quaternity, you've got the vertical axis which represents spirit, and the horizontal axis which represents the earth. You know, which is feet on the ground, chthonic underworld, feminine earth, and then the vertical axis. Go ahead, Charles. I mean, Kevin.
Yeah, it was just I was thinking of the image. I mean, from a Jungian stance, it would be, you know, yeah, the soul transfixed into the self. But I was just thinking of another image now, which reminds me of Tim's work on the fallen angel. I feel like a fallen angel is another variation of abandoned child.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this idea of being suspended, you know, you have whether it's ego or the soul being suspended.
Mm-hmm.
So this idea of being suspended, I think, at least for me, is also a reflection of the abandoned child. You know, it's a place where you are sort of no longer belonging. You know, you're where are you going to go, sort of a thing. And so I feel like the fallen angel is a opposite to the transfix.
Yes,
soul
it is.
to the self.
I think it's a image, at least for Gerard de Narval, it represented you know, his soul had been depotentiated or lost its his connection with it. But yeah, that's a very good point, that when you're suspended at the center at the intersection of these opposites, that you are it is a sense of limbo. And of course, what it means is the ego is now in connection with the self, but it is a sacrifice, because the ego has to sacrifice its self-will for this to happen. But then what follows most times is a rebirth, but in Christianity it's a resurrection. And Jung, as a son of the mother, preferred the rebirth motif to the resurrection motif, because the rebirth represents something new, you know, the promise of youth, where the resurrection is just has an aspect of just somewhat to the metaphorical realm of the feminine, is a masculine kidnapping of the rebirth motif. So that's one of the things that here this woman is being, now the Christa, she's being suspended at the intersection of opposites, and she's expecting the divine child. So this is not going to be a resurrection myth. This is going to be a myth that involves a rebirth of the divine child, and the idea of being suspended between the opposites has this idea of the philosopher's stone. I mean, the philosopher's stone is the resolution of the third thing. In other words, and this is what Jung says in the personification chapter, is that it's not just spirit and body, it's spirit and body, and then the middle realm, which is soul, and that represents the philosopher's stone or the divine child, one of the two. But it's this middle realm now, which since the opposites, and this is the idea of well, I mean, just go through quickly what von Franz says about the dream. She says that they're doing a mystery play, and it's only acting, and the cross is too high for the ego, and she says it's starts out as a historical imitation of the outer actions of Christ, and and she says that it and see, this is before he knows who the Christ is going to be, because that's kind of the real surprise of the dream. And so Christianity had not really reached us. We're just acting. We're Christians only with our lips, but when it comes to psychological facts, we're pagan barbarians. But then when this Christ figure appears, and it's this mysterious pregnant wife, inner wife, is going to be sacrificed, his soul, not the Christ, he trembles at the solemnity of this drama. The crucial moment when is going to be occur within his own soul, and the inner wife. So the she's a feeling sensation type, and she's suspended between the two opposites, and it's this moment when we're absolutely torn and blotted out. And of course, that means you can't unite the opposites. If you unite the opposites, there is no ego anymore. So that's the idea of that we need a middle realm of soul, a middle realm of the philosopher's stone, a middle realm of the divine child. And then, it's this moment. And at that moment, when opposites are obliterated and the ego is obliterated, she mentions, what Christ said, "My God, why hast thou forsaken me?" Which interestingly is the first line in Psalms 22, first verse. Look it up. It's that kind of puts a different flavor on that statement of Christ, that he's quoting Psalms 22:1. But anyway, the central teaching of the Christian mystery had to be realized in his own soul. And he will suffer it, he'll go through it, and he'll feel its psychological reality. And no conventional teaching of a parson, but something which touches us and our inmost being. Anyway, that and then Joan of Arc, is a female Christ. She's a feminine Christ figure, so that was another aspect of the dream's wisdom, is that this pregnant inner soul is being sacrificed. And there's one thing I wanted to mention too, that we were talking about last time about the shape of the cross. It used to be equilateral. You see in the early church, there was a circle with a quaternity in the middle. But then it became elongated, you know, and the horizontal axis moved up from the middle of the body. It moves up to the level of the head, you know. So now what's being sacrificed is not the body, but the intellect, you know, the ego consciousness. So it's a wonderful image, you know, that we're not sacrificing the body at the intersection of opposites. We're sacrificing intellectual thinking, you know, because, you know, the intellect, although it's very discerning and everything, is far away from the heart. You know, I mean, there's an aspect of it that is that words are killing things, you know, and where the heart speaks in images, the intellect speaks in words, you know, in concepts and ideas and abstractions, where the heart speaks in images that are a little more real. But anyway, the whole point I thought of this dream was to illustrate what Hillman said, that until we are abducted by death, Hades abducts Persephone, till our soul is abducted by death, that we don't realize that this ego consciousness, this intellect, is not, that which we call I is not real. You know, it is a metaphor. And the reality is over here, is the rhizome on which we are to be in service to, you know. So it's the idea, when you realize that you are the servant of the root and not over here all by yourself, in no relationship whatsoever to an inner world. The inner world doesn't exist, you know. But so what Hillman's saying is the only way that this thing over here can figure this out is to be grabbed by death and shown what death really is, you know. And at that point, the concerns of this world here are meaningless, you know. I mean, we have to take care of them. I mean, this is what Jung said, and I think in Memories, Dreams, and Reflections, you know, that he tried. They asked him about these things in his biography, and he says, well, he says, and you know, this was after 4/4 of 44, April 4th of 1944, when he had his near-death experience. You know, Barbara Hanna said after that, he very rarely left personality number 2, you know, that he was always, he had a separate, different set of concerns. So, I mean, you know, he had like these 2 major transitions. One was in 1913, when he had all his inner visions, 13 to 16. Then you had his near-death experience in 44. And after that, Barbara Hanna said he just, and, you know, he spent so much time in Bollingen too, where she said that if she was going to come and visit him in Bollingen, she first had to decompress 2 weeks with another person in Bollingen and then come to see him, because he didn't want the air of Kusnacht, which is where personality number 1 lived, to be invading Bollingen. But okay, the idea here is what we're doing in active imaginations, what we're doing in dreams, should be informed by the fact that we are mortal beings and need to realize that, and that until we, if you anyone had had a near death experience, had actually should have be dead, but somehow miraculously survived. You know, they have a different way of looking at the psyche and at existence, you know, and why can't we all do this every moment? I mean, you know, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm thinking. Yeah, I think it's letting go of the ego. I mean, that's such a hard thing because we have spent some to let go. I mean, that's one of the hardest thing I think anyone can do, to let go, you know, of themselves or their identity. And I don't believe in losing any of them, but there is a point where there has to be a let go sort of a thing.
Mhm.
But I also had this my thinking about this as well is like, you know, I don't feel like the self has, or the psyche or the living reality as such has a one purpose. I feel like it creates several purposes at the same time, if you were to call it a purpose. So I feel like some has to do the work of, you know, bridging the ego with the unconscious, but I feel like someone also has to make Facebook or Instagram, or, you know, I feel like this is also a part of this evolution of consciousness and um, awareness and such. But yeah, the idea of letting go, I mean, if one can do that, I think that's, yeah, half 50% of the job.
Well, you know, Parsifal was no wimp, you know, but the only way that he could find the Grail Castle again was to drop the reins of the horse. And this was a extremely capable knight who could defeat anyone, any other knight. The most, any knight King Arthur could send against him that he could defeat. And yet he knew that the only way that he could return to the Grail Castle is through, and this is what, now this is my own theory, and I'll just, and then I would like just turn it open to everybody and for about 20 minutes, and then we'll turn it over to Adam and Gary, is that the reason that there is ego consciousness is to be in service to this deep root rhizome. But the deep root rhizome does not want a wimp. It doesn't want to be worshiped. It wants an incredibly strong, vibrant vehicle for it to enter and become aware, and also to evolve, you know. And it needs, and it evolves through the symbols, the dialogue between the root and this very strong ego. So it's actually creating the poles for an active imagination. You know, the whole setup of this biological evolution was, if you're looking at it from the rhizome's point of view, was to have a very high level active imaginations or dialogues between the ego and the inner realm, the purpose of which is to creating a third thing, which is the place where opposites can unite, and is creating not just the evolution of technology through Facebook and Instagram, but the evolution of the God image, and so that it can follow the progress of the astrological ages. You know, so it can move from the first half of Pisces to the second half of Pisces into to the realm of the water bearer. You know, and so somehow the psyche knows how it's going to go, but it needs to push. It needs. It's not going to happen if there is no ego consciousness in the world. You know, it needs ego consciousness for this drama to play out. Well, anyway, why don't we just open it? Go ahead, Kevin, and then we'll just get comments from everybody.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll let everyone talk. I just have to share this one because when I was sitting in Denmark, and I was sitting down having a smoke, and on the concrete there was like an ant with a wing, and there was other ants without wings, and so I was thinking, okay, these other ants without wings, I mean, on the other side, do they know there is a garden on the other side? And I was thinking, but there is this ant with wings, you know, because the ant can, they can just fly. So I felt like this is how also I view things. It's like, I feel like those ants without wings, they are supposed to be there. They are supposed to walk around in circles, sort of, and just try to find their way, if that makes sense. And they might not know what is on the other side, but it's just there. It's just in front of them, but they can't see because they don't have the wings. But there is this ant with a wing, and luckily it did fly away. I was thinking, should I push it towards the right direction? But intuitively, by intuition, it know where it was going. And I feel like this is also with individuation process, in that, you know, if the seed in one sort of is pulling towards that direction to fly towards the garden, and with a correct environment, I just feels like there will be a point where you know, it will just unfold, and it will be a point where, you know, it will just intuitively find a garden, and that's something like that. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't want to get into evolution, but it's anticipatory. That's my theory, is that it sees a niche and it fills it. What, Gary? Why don't we just hear from everybody here? And it's just now. Next time, I was just going to do. We'll start on the living symbol, but this is just kind of a little interlude between the two, and we'll keep doing selections from revisioning. But and Way of the Dream. Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, I was just going to say to Kevin, I agree. Letting go of the ego sounds pretty onerous, but I guess another way to view it is it's like, because like you're in the dream group and stuff. So if we listen to the dreams, and then if we can, lend those things kind of our awareness, our consciousness, our aliveness, and then do the dialogue. I mean, I think that's kind of the heart of letting go of the ego, because it has the dialogue, and you're enlivening the other beings. So maybe it's not as onerous as it sounds.
Well, and how are we going to? I had this discussion with my inner anima. I said, I'm trying to do. I actually did it while I was riding in the car. Why don't you become more manifest? Why don't you shock me? Do something to shock me. And she said, well, I don't know, while I'm riding in the car, Craig, look around you. Am I going to come out of that cornfield? Am I going to come out of that stop sign? The only opportunity I have to appear in your awareness is through your own awareness, quieting down and providing an opening for me. So that's what I think letting go means, is that the ego awareness, if you're going to have the unconscious materialize in your own awareness so that you can have a living dialogue with it, the only way that can happen is to make the light less harsh, to sacrifice the light of the ego, so anyway, that was kind of an aspect of letting go that is not a death, but it's more of a realization that the ego needs to be very strong. But if it's going to have this dialogue, it needs to learn how to have the dialogue, and the only way you can learn it is through just having the how would you describe it? You go into a meditation, and what I usually do is I just drop down, and it takes a long time before I feel that little bit of lumen natura in the pineal gland that is now going to allow these inner figures to be able to, in this strange, subtle way, materialize in both in images and voices and events. You know, I mean, it's so I think that's part of the letting go. But my ego is after this is over is just as strong as it ever was. You know, so it's not, it's an interlude to have this dialogue. It isn't 24/7, you know. Louis, do you have any comments? We want to, 10:45, we're going to turn it over to Gary and Adam, or Adam and Gary, whoever's got top billing.
In my own view, I hope not to ever let go of the ego, because it is the only means of cognition I have of both the world around me, or of any dream that I have, or anything that we might want to call spiritual. I do hope in the course of my lifetime to let the ego serve as the stable in which the self is born. And rather than to let it go or to extinguish it, to transform it and let it serve as a vehicle to give birth to a resurrected being during my lifetime, so that when the moment of death comes, this resurrected being will have its own form of cognition, both in this three-dimensional world, but also in the fourth dimensional world, which we know precious little about.
Yeah, that's very well said. It's I think the idea too is what they're talking about in Western trance states is you never really let go of your ego awareness. There's never annihilation of it, but it's just a way of allowing space for the inner image to show up. Tim, did you have any comments?
I've been thinking about the intersection of the vertical and the horizontal, and I'm just holding on to this image of the Christ figure being suspended between these two worlds, and trying to make sense of the business of individuation is achieving a balance between the opposites. And in a way, it is like reaching that suspension between the vertical and the horizontal. It reminds me of Christ's admonition to take up your cross and follow me. So all this stuff is just stirring in my head. It's a fabulous image and really rich conversation. So thanks.
It's taking that's what Von Franz says really is just what you said, take up my cross and follow, or take up the cross. She doesn't say and follow anybody, but she's just says take up the cross of your own destiny, of your own route. How about you, Adam? Any ideas or?
Yeah, sure. Just relating this to my own personal experience. I feel sort of compelled by death, in the sense that, I would say supposedly the first half of my life, because I don't know how long my total life is, so I don't know if up to now was the first half or not, but can say up till recently, was very much building the ego, right? But now, not because of anything that I did, I'm like very conscious of the fact that I have a very short amount of time left. Now that might be like decades, but in the scheme of things, that's hardly anything. So it's like just that realization suddenly makes it so important, at least for me, to not even to understand what is the meaning of my life, but to let it express itself. And, I agree with everything that everybody else has said, that, the ego, I suppose if we didn't have our ego anymore, I don't know what would happen. I mean, maybe at some point that'll happen, but at this point, it doesn't seem like that's what's necessary, but certainly getting in touch with the other stuff is like really, really important. That's what I'm feeling.
Yeah, I think as far as, you know, the death aspect is, you know, I think it is really a transition. It's not an annihilation, you know. So I mean, I'm a little more hopeful. I mean, I'm not saying you're not hopeful, but I don't really. I've never really feared it. But oh, my in my dreams, you know, the anima. I'm 65 years old, but you know, the anima takes the hand of the clock and she turns it to the top of the hour, and she says, you know, it's time. It's highest time. You know. How about you, Ivan?
I'm not sure I have anything to add.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Sure. Miles, do you have anything? Or are you? Well, we'll come back to you, Miles. How about you, Charles?
Yeah. You know, yesterday I read that email you sent out with the James Hillman talking about how I guess that this is the more subjective world and quote unquote not real. And you know, I can't say for sure that my soul has been abducted by Hades or not, but I could definitely, I mean, it struck me as so profound that and I guess I was particularly permeable to it at the time. And it, I mean, it was just like there's no way that it can't, or there's no way that it's not true. And though I may not have gone through a full deep realization of it, it just had me, you know, thinking, well then, you know, why did the psyche create me? Why is the psyche dreaming me up? What am I a character to represent? What do I represent in this kind of global active imagination that's going on? And kind of, you know, or, you know, what is my rhizome? And what exactly does the psyche want from me? And you know, it had me in a very just kind of deep state of you know, just questioning purpose, but not like, you know, what is my purpose? What am I supposed to do? It's, you know, what did you know, why did the psyche dream me up in this active imagination? What am I, what kind of what work is supposed to be done between my dialogue and the inner dialogue or the world or whatever? And yeah, it really kind of struck me in a very, very powerful way. And yeah, I would just thank you for sharing that that Hillman stuff. It was pretty incredible.
Well,
I get what you mean between earlier and later Hillman stuff. I was reading the Soul's Code, and I'm like, this is nothing like revision psychology. It's like you could say it's written by a different person practically.
Yeah, I mean, he's there. It's not this profound that we're getting pre-80s. I think he's just trying to become a little more popular. But I would say it hit me as well, the seriousness of what we're doing. And I would say in your case, Charles, and also Ivan's, I mean, I have never seen two people with more powerful dream images than you two guys. And I'm asking the same question. What does psyche have in store for you? You know, and why are you and the volume of the dreams too. You know, ever since I've been doing the dream group, though, I've been getting a lot more dreams. Like even when I was studying this morning, I had like 3 or 4 little mini dreams, and I'm very grateful for them. Well, why don't Miles and then Arpine, and then we'll turn it over to Adams.
Okay, thanks. Thinking of the rhizome being part of the root,
Mhm.
and thinking of the other plants that grow out from that root, those other plants, thinking help the rhizome that's still yet to burst through the soil, you know, giving shade and such, and coolness maybe. And my thought is that, you know, I often go back to this statement apparently Hegel made, that the philosopher Hegel said that we are if we incorporate every learning and experience and teaching, good and bad relationships, good and bad, it all is pointing us to truths of some sort, maybe the conscious, the unconsciousness. And it occurs to me that it would also add into that list of learnings and teachings are other people's active imaginations. And so, for example, I posted a song that I really love it, and I love the images behind them, which are some women who are all kind of like bound up, and then at the end of the song they actually stand up and they're sort of liberated. But those songwriters, that's the work of their active imagination. And when I listen to songs like that, you know, I'm building what it is for me to do, and somehow incorporate that. And you know, we come here to every week and we share active imaginations. We're working with Carl Jung's active imagination and Marie Louise von France's active imagination, and all these people that you're presenting. So again, back to me as a rhizome, thinking, all right, I'm benefiting from so much that is coming to me from the collective. And one of the things that I'm particularly drawn to that seems to stick is Wolfgang Pauli. And in fact, Murray Stein presents an active imagination of Wolfgang Pauli's. And I'm thinking, wow, I can really connect with that, with what's been going on in me. So anyway, that's just my summary. Thank you.
Great. You know, one thing I can say, if you don't want to go deep down, I mean, the two things you can do are just draw your dreams. That's an active imagination. Just draw your dreams. And the other thing is to just to do a little bit of automatic writing. Just ask questions to something and have them answer back to you. And it, you know, it doesn't have to be all meditative, you know. Arpine, how about you? Welcome too. Maybe you can tell us where you're from too.
I'm from Armenia.
Okay,
So
great.
I'm new in this sphere. So it was very interesting. Thank you for the discussion. But I don't know much to say more. It was very interesting to know about the active imagination of Jung and Marie from France. So I am just starting to learn and read. So thank you very much.
Okay, sure. Well, and we all are, and we're all on different paths, places on the road. So on the same road, we're on the same road, but at different places. Okay, well, Adam and Gary, why don't you just take it over? And I'm going to just mute here, and it's your baby. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, we'll try not to kill the baby. Because kind of, I kind of look at it as a shared baby. So the idea, you know, after talking to Craig a little bit, a few of us, we were like, hey, you know, it'd be really nice if we had like a kind of a group participation section in this meeting, with kind of also the idea of, you know, an opportunity to practice some of this stuff together. So what we've come up with, anybody who was here the last time, you know, we did some individual active imaginations with a few different paintings. This time, what our thought is to present a single painting and for all of us to engage in not a dialogue, but like a, I don't know what you'd call it, maybe a multi-log with this painting. So we would look at the painting and we can, in a spontaneous way, either speak as ourselves interacting with the painting or speak as an element in the painting. So there are many different elements in the painting that I'm going to show. As an example, you know, I might look at the painting and say, you know, I see you, butterfly, and I would like to know what you would like to say to me. And then another one of us spontaneously may adopt the voice of the butterfly, then another one spontaneously may adopt the voice of another element in the painting. And we just kind of go through this until it seems to peter itself out. And, you know, I hesitate to put too many like theories on this or what to expect, but in talking about it with Gary, it seemed like it might be good to point out, you know, that maybe what might come out of this is some insight into our collective psyche. You know, it's possible perhaps to think of a group as an entity with its own psyche, perhaps connected to a much larger one. But this activity may give us some interesting insight into just, you know, what this constellation of beings here on the Zoom call, what meaning it is that we're sharing at some level. So what I'm going to suggest is, I'm going to ask Gary a question here. Gary, did you prepare anything as far as sound effects, or did you leave that just up to me?
No, I didn't do any sound effects.
Okay, so I was kind of leaving that open. I think we'll just do this in silence. So what I would suggest to get ourselves in a little bit of a more of a, say, receptive state is that we close our eyes for about a minute or so. And as we do so, I'm just going to say some stuff which is hopefully going to help us to get into this sort of state of receptivity. And then when we open our eyes, we'll see the painting in front of us, and then we can spontaneously start interacting with it. So first step is to close our eyes and breathe, breathe deeply. That's important. Just take at least 2 or 3 nice deep breaths. Relaxing. Relaxing as if we were kind of descending into a sand play box. Letting go of fears and inhibitions. Seeing and feeling that we're all in this together. Feeling even, perhaps, that we're just young children enjoying ourselves. There's nothing to prove, nothing to gain. We're just playing together, creating sand castles. Okay. So we can open hopefully everybody can see this painting that's being shared. And anybody who would like to, feel free to unmute, just start.
On the blue at the very top, I feel that there's a snake that was at the surface that begins to descend. And you can see his head just above the cross.
That same shape to me looks like an animal penis, like a seal or a walrus or something.
I was thinking that it looks, or well, the whole image looks like a libido expression, and that there's like just this like energy kind of flowing from the top to the bottom, and almost pollination and fertilization of the lower parts.
I was seeing almost 4 sections. I mean, I mean, I'm just picturing a mandala, you know, and if we start in the upper right, first of all, there's an image of the what looks like the ocean surface, you know, which would be the surface of the unconscious, and then on the upper right hand, there is a emerging plant with fruit, and then below that, then we come to a seeing eye that seems to be the consciousness that's producing this budding plant. And then there is another descent, a ladder of descent to the realm of death, and then we get in underneath that is now we come to a sort of a fiery realm, you know, a realm of fire. So I think we went from water to this fiery realm, you know, and then I think we go over into a more earthy realm. You know, now this is an earthy realm, and it has it's lit by a candle inside. I mean, there is a flame within a mountain, you know, which is covered in greenness, and also in is sprouting blossoms, and there's a streak of gold in it, or some type of yellow, which would usually represent intuition, and the orange would represent the feeling function, and the heart, basically with the red. Then we come up to the being of metamorphosis, which is the being of transition, which is the butterfly. You know, so we went from this realm of it seems to be like the if we're descending, I'm not sure what direction we're going. Okay, then we come up to a barrier, which is another barrier of intuition, and up above, we see some type of either a spinal cord or some snake-like figure, which is segmented in some way, you know. So it is a symbol of life, of the most prima materia aspect of existence, of consciousness, and yet it's somewhat broken up, you know, and there's lots of intuitive yellow there as well, And then there is one realm of feeling, which is orange feeling. And then there is another realm of earth, which is the brown realm, and which would represent to some extent the earth as the the grounding of matter, and then there's this big blue streak under the water, which to some extent is God broods upon the waters, and then stirs them, so the blue also represents the intellect to some extent. So it is the one aspect here of logos other than the eye, coming in. So I'd say everything here looks very feminine, except for the blue streak into the of logos, and but the seeing eye is a very primal eye, because it has a black aspect, so it's an undeveloped eye.
I would like to speak as the image, and I'm saying as an image that you all made a good job, but do you fail to realize that I was the one making you? You are seeing yourself right now. You all are in this one image. I felt like, or the butterfly is for Gary, and the cross is for Miles, and the couch is for Adam. And there is some more, but yeah, so you guys are not seeing me, I am seeing you. And if you can see that, there is liberation.
Beautiful. How about you?
I find myself fascinated with these figures above the butterfly, the blue figures, which remind me of several things. One is calligraphic figures like Chinese writing, which of course are ideograms. And I'm also thinking about evolution. The bottom one looks like a paramecium or some kind of one-celled animal. And then maybe a multi-celled animal, and then maybe an insect and a bird, and on up into this sort of spiritual realm. And this trajectory, this arcing trajectory, is parallel to this kind of fiery ascendance that makes me think of the difference between the body and the spirit, or the logos and the eros, or the feminine and masculine. It's just, I find myself going back to that element.
There's also, there's the triangle in the lower right-hand corner, which is has a little bit of something coming out of it. It's kind of a signature, and I didn't notice the cross. Yes, that's very interesting, that there's a very, very elongated vertical cross, which is near the level of the animal, or the being of the transformative, which is the butterfly, which has 4 aspects, plus a seeing eye, and its eyes have buds on them, some kind of a radiant buds, and it's that is, and there seems to be almost a Chinese script above it. You know, I mean, it looks on the left hand side, it looks like Chinese script, and on the red on the other side, it almost looks like kiss marks, you know, or lips at one point, you know, like lipstick or something. You know, it has something to do with the with the I would say some aspect that of deep attraction, you know. So yeah, I mean that's I don't really I love the coloring too, the different the use of the colors, you know, the marine blues, the oranges, the reds, and then a more sea foam blue, and then the green of the plants. And you know, this one plant over here almost looks like a pomegranate. It has that's the one in the lower right hand side, which is a you know, is a very mysterious plant full of seeds.
Kind of, I wanted to say, it looks like it's like a circuit of images. It makes me think of a circuit board made out of psychic images.
That's really good. It is.
You know, I guess one thing that really strikes me is that you could look at this and if you had been through like a huge situation in your life, it was like this one image could represent as a symbol the whole thing and what it meant. It's like, it's almost like communicating through pictographs.
Mm-hmm.
When I looked at the picture, I thought that somebody is looking back to his life, like going deep in herself or himself, and thinking about his life from the birth to death. Like, but that somebody is in a bad. In a cathartic maybe situation, but like going through that way, and and also the purple, like the above of the picture, I think it made me an impression of unfreedom, like somebody is thinking about his life and making a decision, maybe thinking about the death, like in existential philosophy, it's like borderline situation or something.
And it's very interesting. The birth image seems to be on the left, and then in the middle is this quaternion. There's some bridge going over to the death image with that has seems to almost have a crown of thorns on it, and also seems to have some kind of a cross aspect on it. But it is going from the left hand side is the birth, and the right hand side where is the world of dry stone. So the richness of the side is the left-hand side. The left-hand side seems to, statistically speaking, have more colors, and also has more less abstractions. You know, it's got more of real living images, like a mound, you know, a butterfly, a symbol of the earth, you know, and then this feeling concept. And if you see, you start out with a X that becomes a more of a cross, and then so it's a forming cross that finally forms down below. That's coming from above, from under the earth, which might be the brown section, you know. So the right hand side seems a little more abstract, at least in the middle aspect. You know, there's two bridges and this death aspect with the vision above. And then below seems to be the pomegranates. And I don't know what the, is that a crown or something in the bottom, the green and the yellow? Not sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna speak as the image again. Can't you see that you have presented me as 2D and you all are 3D, but yet you talk to me, or you see me, or you put me in an 2D image.
Yeah, there is a sense of depth to it. If you look at the blue, seems to be over everything, you know, and then it goes. If you're looking at it in 3-dimensional, the blue seems to be at the top of the 2-dimensional surface, and then you descend, you know, and it seems to me that the lowest point, if we're looking down into a image, is sort of that brown squiggle that goes below. And yeah, I think that is an image that we're 3D and we're looking at it in 2D, and maybe we should look at it in 4D.
I'm also seeing some double images here, like the tree shape on the upper right also looks to me like an old oak gate in a castle or something, a big double door that feels like a hard to penetrate passage, and that resonates with this kind of fruitfulness of the tree. And the penis shape in the middle, coming out of the water, also looks like an extended arm with an open hand at the bottom with the thumb sticking up, and maybe holding some kind of document or a prayer stick or something. And then the butterfly, I'm looking at the black inner parts, which to me look like bones. And so this is not an insect, it's an angel or some kind of a vertebrate that has bones, but it's a thing of the air.
One of the things that strikes me about the eye, which Craig pointed out was primal, is that it's directly over the steps. So that almost indicates like a direction, but we don't know if the direction is up or down, but maybe that it's going through a transformation because it's in a place of change.
You know, I almost see that the rays coming down from the right hand side and the left hand side are all. I mean, my vision of motion is that it's moving, ascending to the right. I mean, the fact that it is turned this way, almost turned at an angle, also gives this feeling of flight. You know, that it's in flight. You know, if it was sitting on the earth, it would be more stable and probably more balanced this way. But in space, as it's moving through space, it takes on a different aspect. So you want to sum everything up? I mean, that there's ocean, there's greenness, there's earth, there's vision, there's death, there's metamorphosis, there is incubating and flowering and blossoming, and then there is elongated quaternity, and there's also, I was going to look up what the pomegranates are. That's a very interesting image. If you were going to tell the story of the image, what would you say, Kevin?
Or you
I was
were
just
going to say
Yeah,
something else.
first,
Go ahead.
yeah, before saying that, I would say it says, or it tries to say, like, can't you see, like, I am the topic you have been talking about in the beginning. I am suspended, you know, I'm sort of already in suspension. I'm the ego you have suspended into a cross. I am sort of left hanging everywhere on people's wall, because that's sort of only the way you can connect, which is no connection. But yeah, if I'm gonna use, what was the question, Craig?
Oh, do you think that, I would say that this seems to me somewhat a polytheistic picture, you know, like there's many images in it, but if it has one story.
Yeah, one story. Yeah.
Yeah, what would the one story be?
I think the one story is that that it is studying us. We are not studying it, because we are the one that sort of, we are looking at the 2D image. We are the one that's in 3D, and even though they are a representation of something, they are bigger than the 2D. So, and essentially, it cannot be us studying them. It has to be them studying us. And I feel like that's the thing. I think the image is saying there is no one purpose. It's all purpose at once, and at the same time is none. There is no purpose.
You know what I would do if I was going to do this, if I was going to do this as a rock reading, you know, what I would pair would be, put ocean and plant, and then I would put eye and bridge, and then I would put death and the pomegranates. So the pomegranates are somewhat a symbol of resurrection. You know, oh wait, we got some more people coming in here. Okay. And then I would put earth and transformation, or transformed. So the eye and the bridge might be have something to do with the transcendent function. And then you got the earth and metamorphosis, I would say. You know, some kind of a rebirth, and the dividing line or the border line between death and rebirth. See, on the right hand side, I think it's death and rebirth with the pomegranates and the skull, which is more abstract. And then on the right hand side or left hand side, it's more earth and metamorphosis, which is more a feminine image of the rebirth. And on the right hand side, it's a more abstract masculine image. Then so then you have above that, I would have some kind of a Chinese script with then it goes into some libidinal aspect, or there's some aspect of the blue and the red. So the blue is thinking, and the blue is thinking on, and it is in letters or some kind of hieroglyphs, and the red is eros, and it's in almost the form of lip impressions.
Lipstick.
You know, yeah.
Well, Adam, I'd like to know how you put this together. Can you talk about it?
Yeah, sure. So this is actually, against my better judgment, a painting that I did, but I showed it to Gary as a second option, and he was like, no, let's do that one. So I was like, okay. And the way I did it was I sat down. I wanted to do an image of something called the two roads, which is an image in the spiritual tradition that I'm involved in, where in order to make a decision to do something, you kind of have to look at what's before you and realize what you're attached to, you know, and sort of let that go in order to be able to go on to the next thing, so to speak. When I did the image, I was totally like, what? You know, I don't see the two roads in this, but it's interesting to hear what all of you have had to say about it. You know, I could make an observation about the process that we just followed, which, you know, I had been expecting this to be much more of like an active imagination where, like, say, you know, I'm talking to the elements and then they talk to each other and they speak back, a little bit along the lines of what Kevin was doing. I think he followed that approach more than anybody, which is not to say that that's the right approach. That's what I had been expecting. I would say, and you're free to disagree with me, I would say that we took more of a, that there was an eros aspect in which there was meaning being spoken to us, but I think we took a very logos aspect in that we wanted to explain things. So I'm wondering if that might even tell us something about the way that we relate to all of this material that we're studying. Like, are we working with our minds a lot to sort of decipher things, or are we taking a more sort of experiential approach of feeling things and interacting with them? You know, it's just like an open question about, it's an incomplete sentence, but sort of the purpose of this, I think, was to expose something of our group psyche. So, you know, that might be a question again for the group. You know, after having had this experience, what does this tell us about ourselves now that we've done this together? And I'm gonna just stop the sharing, by the way.
Well, Kevin, I really appreciate your approach, because of all of us, you're the one that really leapt outside of our natural tendency, which is to just reflect, you know, what we're thinking. And we're such a logos-oriented civilization that all of us just naturally go there first. And what you did was impersonate the painting, which is, I think, a really high level kind of imagination. And I really appreciate that. And I agree with you, Adam. Next time we ought to try to maybe do something more like that.
Yeah, I can perhaps just comment. I think I learned this from my analyst, because because I'm INTP. I am analytical by nature, but what I learned from my analyst, even though we didn't work a lot with painting, was to let the painting speak to me rather than I speak to it. And that is what I said about letting go. Letting go doesn't mean to be fully unconscious. It just means that something has to loosen up. And so once the loosening up can sort of be done, then, you know, there is already a connection towards the self. The self is not something necessarily you need to find. Even that is a logos aspect. It's always there. And so once you loosen up, the self is already there. And for some people, you need active imagination. Some people, you need a painting, depending on your psychological type. For me, I use extroverted intuition. So painting for me works very well. But active imagination for me takes a lot more energy, sort of. But that's because of my psychological type.
I think it's a very good point. I just trying to sit here and think what butterfly says and what earth says and what cross says and what ocean says and what picture says and what bridge says. This is something like they do teach in you know, that's what I was trying to do is like what I do in a rock reading, you know, what does ocean say? What does plant say? And then what do ocean and plant say? You know, and then you do the same thing with eye and bridge. I mean, you see what you could do if you're going to do something with this many elements, and then you say, what does I say? I mean, and you know, usually I have a question, and I'd say, why do I dream so much about emaciated dogs? And so then I'm going to use this picture to tell me in my active imagination, I have a question. Okay, whatever it is, you know, why in dreams do I see so many emaciated, hungry dogs? Okay, then I would say, what does ocean say about that? And so, you know, and then you'd say what ocean says about it, and then you'd so you get what ocean says and what plant says. Then what do ocean and plant say? And then what does I say and what does bridge say? And then what does I and bridge say? And then what do ocean, plant, and I bridge say together? You know, so then now I've combined 4 elements of the painting, and then I keep going through the process, trying to answer some type of a question. Now, that to me, if I was going to say this was the hex, this is all we were given on the I Ching, and if this was all we were given at the I Ching, and we can come to it with any questions at all, come to it with a question, and then you know you go through that process of what do they say. You know, it's kind of a that way. Now I have a better idea of what butterfly would say and what, because you know I'm not sure what butterfly's thinking right now. You know, so I want to know what's the topic or something. You know, what are we going to? What is the Tao of this moment or something? I'm not saying it has to be something that specific, but I mean I was trying while you guys were talking to get in the mind of butterfly, and you know I can do that sometimes. You know, I sit there and I try to imagine myself as the butterfly, you know, and then I'm looking at myself when I'm the butterfly, and then now I can say something, you know. And I'm trying to do it. I don't know if I can do it and blather at the same time though.
Well, I, for one, am just blown away at how well this worked. I mean, so Craig, when you're doing the rock thing, you do each singly and then you start doing dialogues between them. Is that correct? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, Craig, you're muted.
Yeah, I'm just saying this is one approach to making this an active imagination. I don't say is the approach, because I was trying to do also, you know, occupy butterfly's mind and see myself and talk. But I was just trying to get a start here. So yeah, what I would do, in the rock reading, I'd say, what does ocean say about messy house in my dream, or something like that. And then what does green plant say about that topic, whatever it is, whatever image I'm bringing, whatever question I would bring to the I Ching, I'm going to ask of this painting. And then I'm going to go through each aspect of the painting and see if I can get an answer. And then I would form them into pairs in some fashion, constellating the images into pairs, and then say, what does the pair say? And then I'd take two pairs and say, what do the two pairs say? So now I've got 4 elements combined. So the 4 elements each had a voice, the 2 had a voice, and then the 4 have a voice. And then I would do that until I had them all done. And then I would ask each group of 4 what they say until I get what the image speaks. The one voice of all the images, which would be what they were talking about as far as the group myth. What's the group myth of this painting? And although the one problem I'm having, and maybe you guys can suggest something, is I want to know what they say, but I want to know what they say about what. It's just what they're say about, right? I mean, should I just let them say any word? If there's any word that comes to your head, what would it be? One word. That might be a way to go through it.
Yeah.
What was the one word butterfly would say? Butterfly, you can say one word. What would it be?
Right. Yeah, I was just going to say, Craig, that for me, that's an interesting approach, because like just personally doing the painting, the way that I do paintings in general is like I drop the agenda, and in that way, something comes out, and to me, it's like the expression of everything that exists right here, right now, in the present moment, as sort of filtered through my psyche. And that in itself has, I think, an inherent meaning, without having to bring, like, this may not work for you the same way for you, but it's like there's already a central meaning that's unfolding. Like, I don't necessarily need to try to look for a certain thing to focus on. It's like it's wanting to express itself by itself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and the meaning I mean, this speaks to me whether I know what it means or not. I mean, I get an impression from this painting. Now, I don't know whether I can express it in a meaning, but I do get an impression from it. And it is a impression of a landscape, of a psychic space, and it has a aspect that I am delight in every part of it, and each aspect of it is surprising to me. I mean, I'm going through the just going around through the images, and each aspect of it has an element of surprise.
If I could make a quick note real quick.
Yeah.
I found that image particularly difficult to have some sort of like speech or dialogue with, because there's no element of personification to it. Like, nothing in that image in a literal sense like can actually speak. And so whenever I let sound try to passively come to my mind, it really was just like super abstract jazz music. It was like, so that's the only audio or sound that came to me. I couldn't get speech from it. It was just very abstract like horns and guitar, and I just found it very difficult to speak to it.
You know, this would be a one good one to write a story about. You know, to write a story and but I do get what Charles is saying, is that there's jazz elements, but you know, I get these jazz elements, you know, too, in now I don't know what they mean, but you know, here's, like, I'll show you one just which is kind of similar to it. Let's see if I can, and you know, see what now the ones I get are not you know, are ones I actually see. Now my wife is very good at doing what this is, you know, which is to use form, you know, in it. But where was this one I had? I was just going to see if I can find it. But it was several images, and then yeah, it's this one here. Let's see. So, you know, I just had this image. This is actually, you know, real images, as there was Christ, and then there was Ishtar, or you know, the this feminine being, and then there was 2 sheep, 2 camels, and 2 donkeys, and then this figure who somewhat looks like Jung just says, "Do you understand?" You know, and then I had another one like that, which was, you know, I don't. Now I do say that there is a jazz element here, but being a jazz liking jazz, I don't think that's necessarily bad. But, or, you know, it is just it's certain. See, here was the other one I had, which was you know, where there was a dead elk, untamed nature, a totem animal. Then I saw Otzi, the man from the Swiss Alps, who is the collective inheritance. And then the bird, black and white bird that's held by a man, uniting the opposites. And then this silver-faced, lunar-faced woman who says, "I will prove this all to you." You know, so the elk is lying on its side dead. Otzi is an ancient man, collective inheritance, bird in the hand. The antlered instincts are dead. The ancient wisdom is mummified. In a powerful hand lies the winged opposites. And the anima speaks and says, what you see here is true. You know, now, I don't know. That was sort of not quite as jazzy. Go ahead, Miles. Or I mean, I'm not. You guys, Adam, you're running the show.
So as I reflected on it, on the image that was presented, I started to see it in the fraternity with the cross in the middle. That really was, oh wow, there's a cross right there. And in the lower left, and just bear in mind, I'm always constantly looking at things from my existential angst and connecting it with what most recently I was reading or watching or studying. So bear that in mind. So in the lower left, it looked to me like a nice hearth with a warm fire and in a garden. So to me, that was the lower left quadrant was like the Garden of Eden. Then the upper left, it looked to me like fossilized remnants of creatures of the past, you know, and our oil and gas, natural gas reserves. Then moving to the upper right quadrant, that struck me as a river with canals having been built off of it. Like if it's lowered a little bit, you'll see the linear lines emanating from the river, and then fields of industrial agriculture. And then, you know, that's where we are right now. We've dramatically affected the landscape with our technology and our population growth. And the I'm saying is that we need to see this, need to be the consciousness of God, as Skip Conover has said once. And, you know, you're often talking about too, Craig. So the eye, you know, that could be God's eye, of course, but it's, you know, we are the eyes of God right here, right now. And then we have, it looks like somebody's been crucified, you know, and there is a halo around the skull on that cross, and that, you know, is reminding me of this, you know, the cross that we were to pick up, kind of thing, and then we're cycling back to a better appreciation of nature, you know. And one of the things I've been most recently exposed to is the power of going to a plant-based diet, how that would dramatically affect our impact on the planet. And then cycling back, we could get to return to Eden. Thank you.
Karen or Idris, did you have anything? Oh, go ahead, Adam.
No, I was unmuting because it looked like you were talking, but you were
Yes.
muted. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, unless go ahead, Idris, if you want to. I mean, you came in a little late, but we're just. I think we're finishing up, aren't we, Gary and Adam? Yeah. But go ahead.
Yeah. Good morning and good day for everyone. Today I'm just learning. I don't have a new dream to share. Some of my dreams are old, but I'm learning much.
Yeah. Okay.
Is it okay if I share old one?
Well, yeah, but we're just finishing up today. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, you
yeah,
can.
It's a bit late to...
Yeah, any dream is okay. This one is not so much the dream group, but yeah, the other one is the dream group. But Karen, did you want to say anything?
Before I go, can you tell me the Monday hour, like what time it starts?
Yeah, it would be. It's at 7 p.m. Chicago.
Okay. And what is the starting time for today?
This one started about 9:45 Chicago.
Okay, thanks. You can go ahead. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, Karen, did you want to be our last word on the words of wisdom? And welcome Arpine too. I hope you come back too.
Yes, sure. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Well, anyway, Karen, you don't have to say anything if you don't want to. But next week we'll do the same thing. I'll start about 9:45, but you don't have to really come till 10 or so on the living symbol. And I'll bring in maybe a little bit of Hillman each time, just one short section. Try to tie it in a little bit, and then at the last 45 minutes to an hour, Adam and Jan or Gary will come up with something. But this is, I mean, how often in the week do we get to do something like this? I mean, and if we really do participate in it, I feel a healing aspect to it myself doing this, because, you know, I really do call this type of amplification work, you know, it's a blessed time. I mean, if you reflect back up on it later, doing amplifying of images and things, you just say, this is one of the most pleasant things I do. Why don't I do more of it? You know, it's hard, but when I'm doing it, and I'm sort of stumbling around clumsily, but I do feel a healing aspect to it. Gary or Adam, do you have any closing comments? And then we'll.
Could I say one thing real quick?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Could you send out that image on the email list, please?
Yes, I sure will. Yeah. I kind of enhanced it a little bit. I hope you don't mind, Adam.
Oh, I'm
I
on
just,
my cell phone right now, so I actually couldn't really see it very well.
oh, yeah,
So
sure.
I'm going to get it over to my computer screen.
Yeah. All right. I will definitely send it out. Or you can send it out, Adam, too, if you want to.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
you know, I just
that's
made
good.
it bigger so we could see it. Well, Adam and Gary, do you have any final words of wisdom?
I would just say, and unless you want to go first, Gary.
It doesn't matter. You know, all I was going to say is that one of the things that I really appreciate about Adam's painting is that, you know, this was like a, you know, just exactly what we say we want to do. And you know, if we're going to, you know, do Jungian types of exercises, is that, you know, this was his take symbolically on the world at a particular instant in time. And you could just, I mean, you know, wow, what rich symbols. I was like, yeah, great, Adam. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, and we're not real, you know. Go ahead, Adam. I mean, the image is real, not us.
Yeah, I wonder what Kevin would have to say about that. But anyways, but when you're welcome to say something.
About reality or such, or
Well, just because you were bringing in the 3D versus the 2D.
yeah, I think we are reality. There's no such thing as non-reality. Everything is reality, and when we dream, we are in another reality. Now we are in another reality. When we're completely unconscious, we are also in another reality. But reality, I don't personally ego-wise, I don't. There is no such thing as non-reality, because that's pretty much, I think, always been.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Just as far as like maybe a closing comment for me, Gary and I are kind of improvising these things. We've had some help from Jan offline, who's not in this meeting. If anybody has any ideas of a way that you'd like to interact as a group together doing this kind of thing, please feel free to share, you know, either with the whole group or just with Gary and me and Jan and Craig, whatever. And at some point, if somebody besides us wants to lead a session like this, you know, I think we're all open to that, because that's, for me, that's kind of the point of this group, is we're all like, how do you say, protagonists in this drama, if you want to say that, you know.
Yeah, and I've been amazed too. I mean, it's just beautiful to me. I was telling my wife how much I enjoyed it. So yes, anybody that feels come forward, or I mean, just see Adam and Gary about it, and Jan. So anyway, we'll start next week, just for about 45 minutes to an hour on the living symbol. And as I just was telling everybody at the start, this is actually a real dream series of a real person done by an analyst, Gerhard Adler, who seems as amazed by everything as anybody would be. I mean, he has this very personal sense of surprise and astonishment at the dream images that are that come up and how it flows and develops, you know. And it's a fairly easy read, but Gerhard Adler is extremely has a great sense of doing what we just did, you know, amplifying. And so I think we can learn something from him too. But then Gary and Adam will have to come up with on their half whenever they're ready. And maybe Tim, you can kick in something too, since you're the graphic artist. Okay, well, thanks guys. We'll see you next time then. Appreciate
Hugh,
it.
I have a question before you go. May I ask?
Yeah, sure.
Is there a text I should read for the next session?
Yes, it's
Adler's text.
Yeah, it's called The Living Symbol. You're on the email list, aren't you, Idris?
I am, but I have not received this specific book. I have only James Hillman's book.
Okay,
and that was my other question, on which page you have arrived at. I went through a very busy week and I want to catch up with reading and everything.
Okay, well,
I'm
we're
gonna
gonna
watch the replay of this session too.
yes, we'll start a new book. And I was just thinking, Arpine or Karen, if you could put your email in the text or in the chat, or if you can go to Facebook and just Facebook message me with your email, I'll send you a copy of the text. And also, okay, yeah, I think we've got you, Idris. And
Thank
I'll
you.
make, yeah, sure we have you. But if you guys, yeah, thank you, Arpine. And I will send you guys the, it's called the Living Symbol. And I'll tell you, I like I was telling Gary, this is a book that as you read it, you kind of wish it never would end. But anyway, we'll end today. So we'll see you next time. Thank you, everyone.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
Okay,
Thank
you
you.
too.
We have Monday off too
Everybody.
here in Canada.
Okay,
Have a
great.
great weekend, Miles. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.